Hey, everybody here. Hey, everybody, it's Mark Machete here with Michael Kim. Michael, you and I have done work together for, uh, well, quite a few years. We're both in direct response. We both understand that direct response is about making a connection, allowing people the opportunity to relate with the messaging, with the promo, with the campaign, with the product, with the service. How do you do that? How are you so effective in taking a copywriter's copy and framing it in a way that elevates the emotion, that elevates the ability to for people to connect with it and relate with the messaging and the content? How are you able to do that so flawlessly, effortlessly, and quite frankly, in the most profitable way possible for yourself, for us, for clients, for partners? How do you do that? What are your insights? What are you looking at?
Well, part of that is my background. So I started off as a marketer that sort of fell into design. So I was designing my own offers. I had a couple friends that were struggling with other designers, so they asked me if I could, jump in and help out. And they ended up being like really successful. The two first launches that we did 750,000 for an event, and then the second one did 3.4 million. And so like when we work together, the number one thing I always do when I look at a person's offer is I actually read their copy. So because I run my own offers, we do e-commerce products and info products. I know what that whole process looks like. Everything from like the ads all the way down to upsells and the back end and email marketing. So part of it is I'm not some graphic designer out of the Philippines that only knows how to make things look pretty. I actually understand the marketing, and so there has to be some continuity and congruency throughout the entire funnel. And so that's the first thing I'm looking at. I'm looking at their ad copy, their sales copy, lead gen. And I'll read through all of that. And then I'm trying to get into the mind of the actual prospect. So it's almost like because I have that background in marketing and I understand copy, then at that point we can figure out what exactly the target market's going to be, and then what type of imagery is going to relate to them. And so when we look
Awesome.
at the
Let me just intervene there for a second because as a copywriter, having worked with graphic designers and videographers that don't necessarily understand copy or the emotion behind copy, the imagery, the visual that they put forth actually distract prospects from the messaging rather than accentuating the emotion behind it. So what you're saying is you tap in to the messaging, to the emotion, to the deliberate intention behind the copy, tap into that, tune into it, and then bring it forth in a way that is going to engage, entertain, and draw people more in. Help them relate more with the copy, with the messaging, with the vision. That's what you
yeah
do?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
And like you were saying before, like the emotion of everything. So when you look at imagery at each stage of the sales letter, there's a different emotion that's attached to it, whether it's fear, desire, whatever the trigger is at that moment, the imagery has to match. And more importantly, the copy has to be, especially if you're doing long form copy, it has to be readable. So we use like I have a patent, like my patented process as far as uh, readability. So like in this day and age, especially for mobile, uh, being able to look at and easily read the copy and then know which parts of the copy you're supposed to pay attention to. Because what we did is we did heat mapping on like long form sales letters, and we got to see exactly what people look at. And so when we do our process, what we're doing is we're actually taking, because like, let's be honest, uh, there may be like 30 or 40 pages of copy. Almost nobody reads the entire sales letter.
yep.
Like they don't read every single word. What we do is we look at headlines, we look at the call outs, we look at the images, the individual creatives, the things that actually pull people in. And so when I'm framing a sales letter, what I'm doing is I'm saying, if I just read the headlines and look at the imagery and the special call outs, whether they're bullet points and benefits, whatever it is that going to convince me? Because when people scan down the page, if they look at those individual things, and it's easy for them to read, right? Because people don't know what they're supposed to look at. So the copy has to be formatted in such a way that it's super obvious. Like you're supposed to read this headline, you're supposed to look at this image. This is the emotion we're trying to evoke at this point in the sales letter. And so when I look through those main points, if it doesn't convince me, then we're going back through and then we're going again and we're making modifications. But most people don't do that. most people are trying to frame everything, and they assume that everyone reads every single thing, but that's not the reality.
That's like the percentage of people who actually, even conversions, the people who actually read the whole thing are probably less than 5%.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's and the skimming or scanning effect, as you're saying, sub headlines need to stand out, call to actions need to stand out. Maybe specific science or a mechanism can stand out in a certain way because there are critical elements, ingredients in a sales letter from a copy perspective, from a visual graphic perspective, design perspective, that absolutely must be there to draw people in, to engage them, to entertain them, to connect with them, to help them relate, to help them see themselves in the copy, in the campaign, in the visuals. And if those things aren't there, they bounce. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking at what is going to capture people's attention the most. And knowing that they're not going to read the whole thing, how do we make sure that the most important pieces of the copy and the visuals are jumping out of the screen into the person's stomach where their empathy is, so they can feel the full impact of what it is we're trying to convey? When you talk about having the imagery, the visual reflect the emotion, like in the beginning of most long form copy, you have the agitation, but that agitation needs to tell the story that they're telling about the problem we can help solve. In other words, we're not just talking about symptoms. We're not just talking, I mean, we have to create an atmospheric tone, so that it really draws people in a way that, it's just like a movie. A movie has to capture people. Otherwise, you're immediately restless and you're like, why am I watching this? It has to be the same thing. When I watched Rocky the first time, I was immediately drawn in with this fight with Spider Rico. I was just like, what is this? Because here's this obvious underdog who is fighting not just for money and stardom and fame, but not to just be another bum in the neighborhood. It's personal, it's passionate, and that drew me in. So it's like, what are those elements? What are those aspects that when people come to us, Michael, what can we isolate that immediately interrupts or joins the conversation? People are telling the story, people are telling of the problem we can address and solve with our clients, our partners, their products and services. How can we do that the most effectively? And what you're saying is, I need to look at the tone, the intent, the emotion, and how it flows into the next set of tone, emotion, visuals, circumstances, so that it's congruent, it flows, it doesn't distract, and it draws people into a world that we create for them, to help them. And that's what this is all about, helping people. The more that we can advocate and have that tone of advocacy in all of our copy, whether it's making money online, whether it's relationship, self-help, self-development, it doesn't matter. Everybody wants to feel advocated for. They want to feel like you actually know what you're talking about and have a why for being there, putting your shit in front of me. Excuse me, your stuff. And that's really important to have that there, to have those elements there that people can immediately connect with. And the fact that you know what those elements are allows us to launch with a promo, with a campaign, with a funnel that's congruent and has the best chance of being effective. In other words, converting. And we always have to break down our three elements, right? Our three main elements of a broad campaign: the lead gen, the conversion, and the upsells, front end conversion. All of those need to be looked at individually and collectively. And what you're talking about in terms of congruence in a funnel, that's exactly how you do it. You have to go out with the most congruent messaging in the whole funnel as possible, from ad to email, and then we can take the data that we're given, the hotspot, the video data, conversion rates, opt-in rates, all of these uptake, all of these things are going to determine how we adjust, optimize, and scale. And so we do that as well. We're constantly adjusting, right?
Yeah, of course. And that changes based on demographic too, like who you're specifically targeting. So people get really caught up with how pretty something is supposed to be as far as sales letters go. But we run billions of impressions using banner ads. Sorry, lost you there. Yeah, if you've ever done any display ads, you'll know that the pretty banners don't convert because people just don't see that stuff. And that was a big eye opener for me. I mean, back, so like 2006, 2007, like we ran a ton of ads. And when we started, when I started basically hand drawing images that looked like terrible, like not even really trying, like those are the things that actually converted the best for us.
Sure.
And so that, like back then, that's when the switch flipped off. And I was like, well, it's not about how pretty a sales page is. It's about how effective the sales page is.
Boom.
And people that come from like I say a branding background, like they wrote, like these people just go nuts. They have so much resistance because they're like, well, this doesn't match our style guide. I'm like, well, if your style guide wasn't designed by someone that understands conversion, then you're gonna have major problems. Like if you choose the wrong fonts or the wrong colors, like I can't even tell you how many clients that we've had show up with sales pages with like black buttons because they thought that looked cool. And it's like, well, everything else on the page is black. Like, how are they supposed to know what to click on?
Right.
And it's insane. Like with that one, like, and this client was difficult in the sense that like they were stuck on the style guide. So we did some minor changes, just changing the calls to actions to something that was a little bit more conversion friendly, like 50% bump in conversion on the first day. And then ultimately like over 300% conversion improvements once we started implementing better headlines, better formatting, better creatives. I mean, once we got away from this like monochrome looking sales page, I mean, it converted like through the gates.
Well, that's awesome. And also what you're describing is, it's like you might have great copy, but if it's not designed and implemented properly, executed properly in terms of the look and feel, it can make great copy bomb. Likewise, it can make bad copy perform way better than it has any right to.
Yeah, that's very true. I tell clients all the time that it's really important, one, to work with a great copywriter. So we specifically don't take on any clients that don't have a proven track record, like they never launched a successful funnel before. We don't take clients that write their own copy unless, again, they've written successful copy in the past. And the main reason for that is that I tell, like, we're not cheap. We're really good at what we do, but I can't take bad copy and make a great offer out of it, but I can take a good offer and make it amazing.
Exceptional. Exactly. And
yeah.
Michael, you're kind of glossed over a big point that we should unpack quickly. Who do we work with and why? We do work with people who know the value of exceptional, effective copy and design and implementation and optimization. Those are the people that we work with, not people who are like, here, make me a winner right out of the gate, because that's not how business is done. Business is done, you build, you develop, you adjust, you optimize, and then you scale. Anybody who comes to us and says, we want a funnel and we want it to be a smash hit out of the gate, it's like chicken chow mein.
Yeah.
The chow part emphasized, because I might be able to do that. We might be able to do that. Absolutely. Why not? But if that's what you're depending to build your business on, I'm not interested. We're not interested.
Yeah.
Because people who know how success is made digitally, and quite frankly, offline as well, it is a process. You launch with your best creative, and then you optimize it until it's the most effective that it can be. You scale it, and then you try to beat it, right?
Yeah.
That's what we want, and the partners that we work with. And the reason why we say partners and not clients, yeah, you're a client, right? But you're a partner. We want back end in your business. And here's why. Because we guarantee our work. We want to make sure that when you pay us money, you get what you pay for. And that is a process, right, Michael?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we really want to make sure that we're working with clients that understand that getting your offer live is just the first step. Like we've said this before, it's the prototype. It's using a racing analogy, it's getting your race car to the starting line with the prototype, not to the start of the race, but really optimizing, figuring out what's working, figuring out what's not working. And then, like you said before, there's so many different variables, everything from the creatives you run.
Yeah, we have to tune up that car. We have to eliminate things off that car that are inhibiting its performance, that are slowing it down. And we need to amp up what is working so that we can keep going faster and, beat the competition. And Michael, how do you beat the competition? You put out something that's more effective. That's it.
Keep optimizing. And the
And you
thing
keep
as
optimizing.
you run more and more traffic to it, you're gonna have more and more data. You're gonna see where people fall off, see if you have any potential leaks in your funnel, things you could like you have to be price testing, you have to be, changing your creatives. If you're running videos, multiple versions of your videos, long form, our general testing package includes multiple headlines, multiple above the fold looks of the sales
Yep.
page. Because we want you to be able to test out of the gates. But again, it's only as effective as the partner is willing to aggressively test.
Exactly.
We like
That's
to
where
be
the media buyer comes in, the traffic driver. Because if the media buyer is not working with us, immediately success is being inhibited. It's actually being resisted if we're not working directly with the person running media. So
it's also like if the clients just hire us to build out a funnel for them, and then that's the end of it, they're really not getting the major benefit out of all the experience that we have with all the hundreds of millions of dollars that we've generated in online sales. There's so many other things that we can do, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating for me because I want to be able to help the client long term, and it's far more fun to work on a project that we know one has great potential. Like if you have an amazing product that could help a ton of people, being able to get that in front of it and actually help a bunch of people, and then help our partner sell more. So whether it's in introducing new strategies or optimizing the funnel, like month after month, being able to work on the same project and see the conversions go up, the average order value go up on their funnel, and make more money. More importantly, that scale, that's far more fun than just churning and burning through a bunch of funnels.
exactly. And churning and burning through a bunch of funnels does not help them reach the level of success that they can and should achieve.
Yeah,
And that's why we do what we do, because we unlock money that does not exist, right? That money did not exist until that funnel was put out there, positioned just right to connect with people, help them relate with what we're saying, drawing them into the world that we imagine, and then converting them by advocating for them, by truly showing up to help them. And just to piggyback on something you said, yeah, people often come to us with amazing products and services. However, people also come to us with an idea, and we help develop those products and those services, and even the product themselves, how it's going to be executed and distributed to the customer or client. So we don't just work with people who already have amazing products and services. I had somebody come up to me with a weight loss product, or with an idea. I want a weight loss product. That was the end of the idea. I had to do the research. I had to figure out what can be the most relevant, what could be the most effective, what is going to position me to have one of the strongest sales messages in the space. So I discovered this B420 strain of good bacteria. It's scientifically proven to be highly prevalent in skinny people, almost non-existent in overweight, and non-existent in obese people. Why? Because our gut is either designed to support people in optimal health or non-optimal health. And when you're being supported in non-optimal health, you have leaky gut or hyperpermeability, you've got issues. And one of those issues is going to be weight gain. So by introducing this B420 strain, we can start terraforming the ecosystem in the gut to look like a skinny person's gut. What's going to happen? Eventually, the body's going to follow. Then the upsell. Oh, and then there was green tea extract, Green Select, a great bioavailable green tea extract. And, there was something else I don't remember. And then the upsell I developed was a prebiotic that was specifically designed to help this probiotic. Prebiotics are fuel for probiotics.
Yeah.
And then the next upsell was a biofilm destroyer. What do bad bacteria and fungi secrete? They secrete white stuff, and that they colonize in that and protect themselves from the nutrients we put in our bodies to destroy them. So by destroying the biofilm or helping the mucosal lining build back up to destroy the biofilm, we're exposing all these bad bacteria that are creating hyperpermeability, the problem in the first place, the causation, and we're showing, we're filling those holes up. We're helping get rid of what's causing those holes while filling those holes up with the next upsell. So I created and formulated all that with a nutritionist and with the manufacturer, working directly with the manufacturer. It's like I asked a question, where is gut health going to this big manufacturer? And he said biofilm. And that's where I got the idea for the biofilm supplement. We collaborated with it. So when people come to us, they're not necessarily having to come to us with the best idea for their product or service or the best product or service already developed. We work with people because we know what works. We know what people need, what problems they're dealing with, and how to formulate the most relevant, cutting edge solutions that matter, that work, that are effective. And with effective copy and effective products, what do you get? You move mountains, you create worlds, you unlock money that never existed, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you really hit on a big point, especially for upsells. Like, your upsells need to make sense. They have to be like a complete no-brainer. So like if you're trying to sell tennis balls, then selling a tennis racket as an upsell or vice versa makes complete sense, because you can't use one without the other. So like with your like green tea product and a biofilm product, a prebiotic that feeds the probiotic. I mean, that's genius. It's genius in the sense that it's congruent, no-brainer, and it's congruent. You're not going to like, oh, you need this probiotic, and then
a whole new conversation that is like it just takes
like
them
exercise. Like those two things don't really go, and because that's the thing, is like your client, your potential client, your prospect is like, if they're in the mindset of, oh, I need to get this probiotic, taking them off of that and like introducing an exercise plan or something like that, where they may not be interested in an exercise plan. They might be interested in taking a supplement that'll help them lose weight, but they might not want to work out.
Right.
Like two different markets. And people think there's like weight loss is weight loss, but they're really sub markets within that, that one specific market.
Absolutely. And there are also opportunities, sorry to interrupt you, there are also opportunities to put an upsell that might seem weird. Let me give you for instance. I did a male, fat shredding funnel, not just losing weight, but fat shredding and lean bulking.
Yeah.
And one of the upsells, so it was 2 supplement upsells to accelerate the speed in which they can achieve those potential results. Notice the way I even described that. And then the third upsell was a seduction product, teaching men how to take their body on a test drive to seduce women. Because a lot of reason why men want a good body is because, I mean, let's be frank, it's bait for hot women. They want to connect, whether it's sexually, romantically, both, doesn't matter.
Yeah, and that's congruent for the target market, for sure.
Absolutely. And it was interesting, though, because the client had resistance to it. Let's just continue with the supplement. Let's have a pure supplement funnel. Maybe we could do that later. And I insisted on it. I wrote a supplement upsell and that upsell. And like test them against each other. Let's just see what happens. You have nothing to lose. I'm giving it to you. And it performed at like over 40%, while the other one was at like 15% uptakes. So, I mean, it was just like, it was a massive runaway winner, and actually created a front end product for the company.
That's huge.
They took that messaging and created a front end product. So, congruency, surfing the momentum of the front end and the first 2 upsells, or, that matters. Absolutely. And there is room to be creative, outside the box thinking, to put congruent still upsells that might be outside the context or framing of what you've put before. Because again, you always have to ask yourself, why do people want this? Why is it important to them? What are they going to do with it? And then it's all about asking the right questions. Like Bono said, you too, it's the answers we had right, the questions we had wrong, right? So if you ask the wrong questions, you can get to a beautiful answer. Like you were talking about, people want beautiful this, beautiful that. They think it's better, not necessarily more effective. They just think it's better. And even though they are implying it's more effective, but the reality is ugly can win. And so, we're just constantly playing with what does and doesn't work. And
it's about what's most effective, not what is most visually appealing
and relevant. Again, this was highly relevant to this customer group. Again, front end, there are prospects, upsells, there are customers. So there's a change in tone. And that final upsell, while out of the framing of the first 3 products, the front end and first 2 upsells, performed like crazy because it took men in a direction they wanted to go. They raised their hands. It could have bombed, and we could have said, all right, let's just do the supplement. But it didn't. That's testing. That's optimizing. You know, it was taking something that converted at 15%, which they would have been happy with. They were very happy with over 10%. But we got it to over 40%. And it knocked their socks off and created a whole new stream of income because they created a whole new front-end product out of those ideas. So we help people in a multitude of ways, not just with the copy and design, but with the overarching strategy of the entire funnel and how to execute it and how to optimize and adjust to it. So, you know, the whole point of this conversation, Michael, is just give people an insight to how we work, to how we talk, because this is how we're going to talk to them. This is how we collaborate. And collaboration is the key to helping visionaries, product, service providers to take their vision and get it out there in a way that can help people, affect people. I just wrote this morning, advertising creates worlds. Advertising influences everything. Facebook, Google wouldn't exist unless advertisers paid all that money. Television right fees paid millions, billions of dollars to companies because they hold that 18 to 49 demo just right, even though all network television and cable ratings are down across the board because of over-the-top stuff like Hulu, Netflix, Amazon, iTunes, whatever, Sling. So, you know, there's the advertising world is changing, commerce is changing, but advertising is the fuel behind all of it, always has been, always will be. What kind of advertising do you want to put out to influence civilization, society, to create worlds that you can draw people into and help them, advocate for them, and create lifelong customers that keep, again, buying? How do you do that? It starts with what we're talking about. So if you want to work with us, if you want to work with the best who will work with you, collaboration with you to develop your product, your service, the funnels, the visuals, the copy, the emotion, the world that we're going to draw people into so that you can help them and convert. If you're ready to do that, again, because you have success in this business, you know what we're talking about. You know we're the real deal. That's why we're putting this here. Then reach out. You have anything left to say, Michael?
I think it's really important to know exactly what it is that you're trying to accomplish and realize that it's an ongoing process.
Absolutely.
Because we're not looking for one-hit wonders. We're looking for people that want to continually relaunch the product, keep optimizing, aggressively test so that we can scale to get to the point where you spend like 5-6 figures a day in revenue.
Absolutely.
And that's entirely possible.
Oh, it's extremely possible when you work with us because we know how to do it. We've done it. And if we can work with people who have also done it or been involved with successful campaigns in the past, perhaps with other copywriters, perhaps on their own, then we can work exceptionally well with you together and generate fast momentum and quickly leverage that momentum, both in terms of executing creative, writing creative, executing creative, and adjusting to it, adjusting to the data so that the creative is hitting the marks, that we're not just, you know, saying what we think people want to hear, but they're actually telling us, showing us. So if you want to work with us, please just hit us up. There's a form below. You can just contact us directly. Both of our numbers are on the site. Both of our emails are on the site. Both of our Skype contacts are on the site. Just get at one of us and let's see what's possible.
Sounds good.
All right, Mike. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Mark.